take a look at the cards. I'll be first very disappointed if this one does not come back as a 10, because I think the centering is nearly perfect, and I think it's a beautiful card. There's nothing, it looks like, on the edges. If I'm gonna scrutinize the hell out of this though, there looks to be one tiny little white, the tiniest, whitest dot. So we can zoom in on that. Right there. Tiniest little white dot. So we'll see if that warrants anything less than a 10. But I think that's really pretty. Sawsbuck. Next one, this is Charizard. The centering on here also looks really good. Maybe, no, the top and the bottom also look really well centered. So in terms of centering, I'll be disappointed if that's not a 10. There is, you can kind of see it at the top right here. It's not a perfect line, like right around here is where it just looks like there's a slight difference, but that's very difficult to tell. But other than that, I think we're good. All right, so hoping that's a 10. And if these come back and they say there's some kind of defect, we'll know what we need to pay attention to a little bit more next time. So if the lighting isn't amazing for this video, just know that the lighting is best for how I'm looking at it. Looks maybe slightly top heavy. So top compared to the bottom, but still pretty close. There's a tiny little, seems like a little white mark on the bottom right. If you're really looking super carefully at it, as the tag graders will be. Also in the top left, we have a little white dot. So we'll send that in and see how that gets picked up and how it gets flagged. But hopefully a 10. Now this one, a favorite. A lot of people, now that I'm looking at this again, it does look a little right heavy, ever so slightly. But top and bottom seem pretty even. If I'm way off, then I may end up scanning these or using the centering evaluation app. The top right, just a tiny little mark. They say that the edges or the corners go first and then the edges. I can really see it because along the sides they look pretty good. There's a little item there at the bottom. You can pick it up on the grainy video. And if we haven't shown it already, that top left, we'll see what that does. By zooming in, you can really make anything look horrendous. So, now that I see that, might be a 9.5, but whatever. All right, next one is this area 0 under depths. The centering on this looks slightly right heavy. The right is slightly thicker than the left. And then the top and bottom seem pretty good. Maybe bottom's a little bit wider, but this is our first submission, and we'll have a huge data pool of data points and samples and different colors. A couple that I've already thrown into the semi-rigids we can take a look at. And those ones I know we're not getting 10s, but they are vintage. So I know that regardless, they'll still be worth quite a bit. One of them is this Fossil Dragonite, not a first edition. This one has a little bit of wear, not necessarily on the front. Looks a little right heavy. And then if you look at it, the bottom is just massive compared to what we usually see on other cards, but not too significantly different from the top. But not, again, expecting 10s on this. That is a little something in the case. But if we look at it, we definitely see some whitening at the top left, right there, a little mark, some wear in the top right. So I honestly don't know what all the wear gets, but we will see. Yeah, you see it on the bottom too. And then we haven't looked at the left, just one minor one it looks like. Oh, a couple in the same general area, right about there. All right, and then probably my favorite card in my whole collection, this beautiful Legendary Collection Dark Dragonair. Not my most pristine one. On the front, you can see right there, that's gonna hurt. The top right there, it's not as bad, but still an imperfection. Just look at it, how it glistens. That is some beautiful foliage. I don't know if the camera can pick it up. There's also like this very noticeable line. There, you can see that. I felt the card, and that's not anything, it's not a dent or any physical deformation, but it is a noticeable line right down the middle of the card. And then we'll scrutinize the back. Top left's got a little something up there. Top right, it's imperfect, but nothing I would cause damage. Looks like a little nick right there. And this guy right here. See that? All right. And then the back right looks pretty okay. Same things we're seeing elsewhere. So these are some cards that are a bit more beat up, but still it's good to have this so I can look back and see if what gets flagged is something I was able to detect up front. All right. The front of the Snorlax looks pretty good. It's the first edition Jungle Snorlax, non-foil, 27 out of 64. But on the back, that's where we start seeing, I think in one of my first videos, I had mentioned that the damage is definitely more visible from the back. And as you can see, it is. Top left as well, some nicks. All the way around, certainly not a 10 worthy card. But again, the vintage aspect of it, that little guy right there, the bottom right of the back. The vintage aspect makes it desirable and high value piece, even if it doesn't get a perfect 10, unlike a lot of the modern stuff. Now there's a Hot Lugia that's on the market right now, and this is not it. This is an older one. This is 2005. But still. One of my favorites. I don't know if you can tell in the video, but there's like this white blend from, yellow to, it looks like it's like some kind of sun damage, but I see that on a lot of cards and it doesn't, it's actually supposed to be there. But I'm noticing, we don't want to have to take these out, but we'll see what that does. That looks like a dent or a bend, a slight bend. I've seen people on videos repair these. I think they, don't quote me on this, but I think they humidify it a bit and then they clamp it down with just some plastic clamps, and afterward they apply pressure and eventually rub out the dent. That's really cool, but we're not going to do that today. For science, we want to see what that's going to do to the grade of the card. I don't just want to see the thresholds from a 10 to a 9 or a 9.5, but what the grading increments are, if they do it in 0.5 increments. I've only seen, I think, 9.5s, 9.5, 10s. I don't know if they increment it as they go all the way down to 1. But I also want to see what kind of defects you see when you go from a 10 to a 9 or a 9 to an 8, an 8 to a 7. This is a really cool one. This Dragonite Delta species, electric type. Not normal, but we can see a lot of little nicks at the top. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 nicks at the top. A nick on the left top side, like right there. Looks pretty good. Also not looking at scratches on the surfaces. So we'll see if they come back as scratched. You know, quite a few defects at the top. So just gonna start at the middle of it before I notice that the entire back right side is kind of funky looking. On the bottom. If you're integrating cards, this type of scrutiny you have to apply. Can't assume your cards are perfect and look past the defects. Your kids are not perfect, and so don't blind yourself to see them as such. Except for this perfect dark hypno that has no defects whatsoever. Just kidding. This is riddled with them. Yeah, right there at the top is probably the worst one on the top. Look at the right side. Togepi's over there laughing at me. It's like, you don't even know what you're talking about. It's your first time. Well, Togepi, we all have to learn somehow. And I learn through grading cards the wrong way. At the end of the day, I'm learning. Dark Hypno, look at the back. Definitely right up there, we got one. More or less, the other sides look okay. So we'll see how those go. All right. Kingdra, this is another one. You also have to be careful when you're pulling cards out of the sleeves to re-sleeve them in the semi-rigids, because you don't want to damage them just as they're about to go out. You have a 10 and you pull it out and barely nick one of the sides. Let's see, does that look like something? And then suddenly you just lose $50, $100 of value. All right, let's say this looks good. Remember when I said kids aren't perfect? Well, this is perfect from the front. And so there's no question it'll get a 10. Every card's a 10 until it isn't. All right. And I'm looking at the cards in ways that are best for me, trying to position them nicely for the camera, but at the end of the day, It's my assessment that matters. So I have to look at them in the right light for me. Now, when I saw this one, I thought this was a relatively thin top border, but then I looked at the bottom and saw it was also pretty thin. So when you really get up close, you start to see that maybe your initial assessment was not the greatest. Regardless, every single one of these that I have in my pile to my left is going to be going out for grading, because I want to see how closely and accurately I can assign, or I can assess a card to send future packs through. So I'm sending 20 cards at this time. Ooh, there's a little nick right there in the bottom left. That is something that I want to make sure we record for posterity. Back looks pretty good. All right, nothing else on the back. It's cool in this arc to backs. Looks well centered. No damage. Everything looks pretty good, pretty well centered. Look at the back. And this one looks really good. Notice it is kind of curved. Happens a lot more with the full art foils. They just seem to bend a little bit more. That's a really cool looking one, this Flareon. I have a handful of these, but this is the only one I chose to send out right now. And we'll see, maybe I am over scrutinizing the cards, and a lot more come back as 10s than I had originally thought. In which case, it'll be time to go through the binder again, round 2 of potential 10 pickouts. Anything I see, I'll show it to the camera, but a lot of these modern cards that I've been showing recently, they're a lot newer, so less time for them to be damaged. You can tell from the back, that's pretty off-center, but the front looks pretty good. All right, nice. So 10 there. This vintage non-first edition, so I don't want to keep it in the first edition Team Rocket binder. This a vintage piece. I'm sure it's going to have a couple of boo-boos on it. Centering, maybe slightly left heavy, then top and bottom. These are massive borders for cards. But this one actually looks pretty good. Maybe slight wear up in the top left. Oh, not maybe, there is. Oh, bummer. Bottom left, look at that big boy right there. Yeah, corners again. But generally a pretty good card. Maybe an 8. In my mind, a 10 is not only perfectly centered, but also has no defects at all. An 8 has, 1, maybe 2 minor defects. Or should I say just 2 minor defects max. And the off-centering can be as bad as a 9. Nice. Now, tiny little dink right up at the top right. That's a bummer. So I wanted this card to get a 10 too. This one and the Sawsbuck, I think, are my 2 favorite cards to send out for grading. Modern cards to send out for grading. Overall, it's going to be the Dragonair, but I think this Iron Crown EX and that Sawsbuck are just really pretty. Nothing I'm seeing on here aside from that minor little dink up at the top right. All right, the back looks pretty good. Nothing I see there. Good job, whoever printed these. Ugh. This next one is a Mew. After looking at it again, it just seemed like, what was it that I saw? Just feels like the right is heavier, but this one's already picked out. So we're not going to go through and send any other ones. The condition was pretty good. It's just that right side being slightly heavier than the left. It's a cool card, but we'll see how much of a factor the centering is and where they're saying it falls into. A minor little dink on the top right. That's the challenge, because you can treat these cards amazing. You can pull them out and sleeve them right away, and they get dinged up just by looking at them. So don't look too hard. All right, second to last one, this Lapras. Centering looked pretty good. Again, a vintage card, a fossil set Lapras. The bottom looks a bit heavier than the top. But the edges on the front look pretty good. The back's got a bit of a dink right at the top in the middle. Top left also just kind of a small one. Top right, same. But generally a good condition card. And then last one we'll be sending out is this Umbreon. Centering looked pretty good. Knows Moon Mirage, that's cool, and Onyx. That's a Pokemon, that's not a move. Top and bottom look pretty good, left and right. Now left seems a bit thinner, but overall condition looks pretty good. No nicks or dings except one I just saw. That guy, the bottom left on the back, bottom right on the back, and I think that about sums it up. So we'll see. I think the turnaround time they said was 30 days. So I will throw these in very delicately into these PJU semi-rigids. We'll send them off for grading tomorrow and then expect them towards the end of May.